thoughts on priorities here and whether you're prepared to vote for a continuing resolution if the Speaker, as he suggests, will bring one to the floor?
Well, it looks as if that is going to be the case. We just finished passing another appropriation bill, which is a good thing. That makes the fifth, and now we're well over 70% of the entire discretionary budget. So we're making progress, but it is going to be a heavy lift to get the rest of those bills done before November 17th. And looks like we might have to have some type of stopgap funding. Speaker Johnson has indicated that that may be his wish and that he may propose that. So, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it and see how things go. I did vote for the last CR, and I want to make sure that, no one wants the government to shut down. We don't want that to happen. However, that's not the worst thing that can happen. The worst thing that can happen is for us to continue with this reckless spending in Washington, D.C. that has led to $33.5 trillion in debt. That is the biggest threat to our democracy right now, and that is our debt. The interest on our debt is going to exceed the amount of money that we spend on defense. That's inexcusable. So we've got to do something about spending. And again, a government shutdown is something that nobody wants, but it's not the worst thing that could happen.
That's right. In 2050, around then, our top line of our budget will be paying the interest of our debt. But, Congressman, you said you want to deal with this when we cross that bridge. That bridge, a potential government shutdown, is in 3 weeks. Would you prefer the January idea of a CR or April to actually have time to get these appropriation bills done?
Well, both of them have their advantages. Obviously, I'd prefer the shortest possible. January would be that, and I do think that we can get it done in that period of time. April, is a long ways off, and I'd hate to think that we continue on with the Democratic policies that are part of this budget right now during that period of time. If we can get this done in January, then I think that'd be a lot better for us, because that means that we can get our Republican priorities and Republican policies in that budget.
Sounds like you want a shorter leash on that, Congressman. There's the matter of the supplemental budget request as well. And I know this is where things start to get a little bit more complicated, because the White House wants to attach funding for Israel, for Ukraine, for Taiwan, and for border security, and something that will add up to more than $100 billion. I know that there's a preference by some in the Republican caucus in the House to bring Israel funding to the floor alone. Is that the next move that you want to see?
It is the next move that I want to see. Look, we support Israel. We just passed a resolution. The first thing that we did when we got our new speaker in, immediately we passed that resolution supporting Israel, condemning Hamas and that terrorist group. We want to make sure Israel has got the financial support, the military, the weapons support, I should say, that they need. Yeah. Now, we want Ukraine to be successful, too. We do not want Putin to win. But these have to be separate. We've got to vote on them separate. I think it's somewhat ingenuous for the president to think that he can send it over here as one package. Look, there are many in our conference who are concerned and don't want to be sending a blank check. As far as Ukraine is concerned, we need to see a plan. We need to see a plan on how this is going to end. We need to make sure Europe's doing their part. We need to have accountability. We need to make sure we never have any American troops on the ground over there. So those are things.
Does Israel get a blank check?
Well, I'm not sure about a blank check, but Israel needs our help, and we're going to defend Israel. And look, I'm not downplaying the importance of Ukraine by any stretch of the imagination. I don't think that anyone should get a blank check without some kind of accountability. And that's what we want to make sure. But we need to get aid to Israel as soon as possible.
Well, right now what we have is a Republican majority, sir, as you know. But there is this potential that that majority is going to get whittled down. There is this vote next week for the expulsion of George Santo, representative of Long Island, and his own New York Republicans. Congressman D'Esposito is saying it's going to catch like wildfire among other House members. Are you going to be one of those members?
Well, I haven't made that decision yet, and certainly George Santos deserves to have his due process, and he will get that. I will tell you that this is a slim majority that we have, and and losing that seat would be even slimmer. But we can't really base it on that. Our decision has to be based on what has happened and what the allegations are, if they're true or not. Look, it's an honor and a privilege to serve in Congress, and something that we should all take very seriously. I know I do.
Well, he's charged with stealing people's identities, making charges on his own donors' credit cards. You know how serious that is, given the fact that I don't think your donors would be too happy with you. If these allegations are true, would you vote to expel him?
If they're proven true, there's no question where I'm going to vote. That cannot be tolerated, not here nor anywhere, but especially not in the House of Representatives.
Congressman, I'd like to hear from you on the new speaker. A lot of folks are just getting to know him, and it strikes me that you guys actually have a lot in common, particularly when it comes to social politics. You see eye to eye on issues like abortion, on same-sex marriage. And I wonder, including your faith for that matter, if you see this and if our viewers should see this as a move to the right, a more conservative-leaning Republican conference today.
Well, I do think it is an indication of that, because Mike Johnson is a strong conservative. He's a strong Christian. He's also a constitutional expert. I mean, this is a guy who for 20 years practiced constitutional law and actually defended cases successfully, I might add. And you know, that's very important for us to note that we've got someone in this position with that kind of experience. Mike Johnson is a lot of things, but perhaps the most important thing, I think, is that he's a good guy. And he has unified this caucus. He has brought us an optimistic and bright tone that we needed. And I really do feel like that God has put him in this place. I'm a strong believer, and I believe that you know, God controls what happens, and I really do believe that he's put Mike Johnson in this position, and I look forward to serving with him and look forward to his time as our speaker.
Jake Sherman wrote that this is the most least experienced House of Representatives speakers in the post-Civil War era. How do you think he's trying to ramp up the experience of this very difficult job?
Well, I think that puts the omen on us in our conference, that we've got to make sure we're helping him. And Mike is smart enough to know that you got to surround yourself with good people and let them go at it. And that's what he intends to do. I think you'll see a shift. He's already indicated that he's going to be depending on chairmen of committees, that he's going to be depending on all of us to help him. You're right, he is somewhat inexperienced, but I don't think it's going to take him long to get going. But at the same time, even when he does get going, I think he'll still adhere to the philosophy of bottom up, and that's what he wants. That's the type of leadership that he wants.